live and direct on a Tuesday. We are with you for the next 2.5 hours on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and our Facebook page, WIBW News. However, wherever, whenever you're tuned into the program, thank you so much for being a part of 580 Sports Talk. My name is Dan Lucero. Glad to be with you. I'm here for the duration today. Spencer Dupuy will be in the 4 o'clock hour. Brendan Dworzinski is off today. 2.5 hours of sports talk for your ears this afternoon before we pass the baton to the Royals Baseball Network. Game 2 of 3 in Cincinnati between the Royals and the Reds. I think I referred to it repeatedly yesterday as a 4-game series. There aren't any 4-game interleague series. First of all, that should have been my first clue that I was wrong. But forgive me, it's an honest mistake. I've got the pocket schedule right up above my desk, and I check it every day. When do the Royals play? When's first pitch? When is the pregame show? And the Royals play at Cincinnati, whose 3-letter abbreviation is CIN. And then they go to Minnesota this weekend, and the 3-letter abbreviation there is, of course, MIN. So it was very simple, just misread of the Thursday game. Hand up, that one's on me. But it's a 3-game series, and the Royals could win a series for a change because they took the opener last night in resounding fashion, 9-2 over the Cincinnati Reds. Game 2 of the series is tonight, 5:30 pregame, 6:10 first pitch from Great American Ballpark, coming up tonight here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. So in this 2.5 hours, we'll talk a little bit about that rarest of rarities that we saw last night, a Royals win. And not just a Royals win, a laugher. One you could relax, didn't have to sweat out the 9th inning. Didn't have to really sweat out much of any of the second half of the game. That game functionally ended when the ball left Lane Thomas's bat for his first inning grand slam. A rare laugher for the Royals, and for a team that has struggled so much to win games, even their wins in that stretch where they'd lost 16 out of 19 were hard to come by. That is the kind of performance that I think that locker room sorely needed to loosen things up a little bit. And 2 young players in particular made headlines last night. Jack Caglianone hit a home run. Luinder Avila earned the win with his 5 innings in his start. And there are some important questions about those 2 players in particular as you start to look ahead to not what do the performances mean for 2026, because unfortunately they don't mean a whole lot for the standings as it stands and your hopes for 2026. What does it mean for beyond? What does it mean for the future? What does it mean for this young player for the future? And big questions about both Caglianone and Avila and their efforts last night going towards answering those maybe a little bit. So we'll talk about those 2 guys in particular regarding last night's win. That wasn't the only bit of excitement on the diamond last night. Oklahoma beat Georgia Tech. Kansas is going to host a baseball super regional. It's coming to Lawrence. Incredibly, improbably, the number 15 national seed will host their former Big 8 rivals, the Oklahoma Sooners, Saturday, Sunday, Monday if necessary, at Hoagland Ballpark for the right to go to Omaha. If you had told any Kansas baseball fan, this team will be 2 wins away from the College World Series, and oh, by the way, they'll be playing on their home field to try and get those wins. I can't imagine how you would have reacted when this season got rolling in February. But here the Jayhawks are. We'll take a look at the bracket as it stands. And did KU maybe catch a break in being the Saturday start and not the Friday start for the Super Regionals? We'll get into that a little bit later on. Good talk some football as well. Two big trades shook the foundation of the National Football League yesterday. Myles Garrett going to the Rams, turning the Rams into the clear-cut favorite to win the Super Bowl, and A.J. Brown going to the New England Patriots, which maybe doesn't have the same sort of seismic impact on the league, but is still a pretty big deal for the Patriots, who are without a number one wide receiver for their MVP caliber quarterback, Drake May, and now have a number one wide receiver. And, of course, the markets, the betting markets, shifted accordingly. Does Vegas have it right? Does the Vegas consensus right now have the contender tiers or the AFC tiers as a whole sussed out properly? We'll take a look at the consensus odds, what they seem to imply about the teams in the AFC, and we'll discuss if we think that Vegas is right. And they usually are. I mean, that's why all those buildings are so tall and shiny, right? Or if maybe there are some teams that are overvalued or perhaps undervalued on the markets as it currently stands. We've got a guest today. We'll talk all things Jayhawks with our friend Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Michael Swain will join us at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour for Jayhawk Weekly. Obviously, we're going to talk a lot of baseball in Jayhawk Weekly. And Michael Swain got to talk to Bill Self in Topeka a couple of days ago. Yesterday, actually. Not a couple of days ago. That was yesterday. And we'll get his thoughts on what Bill Self had to say about his team, where things stand, and how they are entering this portion of their offseason. Also, the non-conference schedule finalized for KU basketball today. So we'll talk about that with Michael as well. Jayhawk Weekly with Michael Swain of Fog.net coming up at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. And just because we're a half an hour short today doesn't mean we don't have time for our typical shenanigans, including What Is Wrong With You, our 580 Sports Talk headlines, Random Question Tuesday, and a whole lot more. You are, as always, invited and encouraged to be a part of the discussion today on 580 Sports Talk. The text line is 785-272-9429. That is 785-272-9429. Can also interact with us in the live chat on our YouTube channel. Name of the channel is 580 Sports Talk. If you're watching the program live, and we're live on YouTube every time we're live over the air on 580 WIBW, so 3 to 6, or in today's case, 3 to 5:30 Central. Hop in that live stream and join the chat. Say hello. Interact with not just your host, but your fellow listeners, and grow the 580 Sports Talk community. If you've never done the chat before, today's a great day to jump in. And today, like every day, is a great day to subscribe to our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. The name of the channel doesn't cost you anything but a click. And I've got a question of the day today. Should really do this more often, but a question of the day today that I would love to hear your answers to, either in the live chat on YouTube or on the text line, 785-272-9429. Kansas is hosting a super regional this weekend against Oklahoma. Who should throw out the first pitch? That's my question to you. I want to hear your answers. I want to hear how creative you get with your answers. There was one obvious name for me that jumped right to the front of the line as to who should throw out the first pitch at the Hog for game one of the best of three super regional on Saturday evening, a 5 o'clock first pitch. Who should throw out the ceremonial first pitch at the Hog? I'm looking for your answers. 785-272-9429. Or in the live chat on our YouTube channel. Once again, 580 Sports Talk. We're going to get some college baseball, but let's start with some pro baseball today, because it's actually kind of pleasant to look back on last night's Royals game, which has not been the case for much of the last month. Tyler points it out in the YouTube chat. Royals are undefeated in June. This train is bound for glory, baby. Royals win it last night. Royals 9, Reds 2. Reds got a consolation run in the ninth, so it was even more lopsided than that final score. An honest-to-goodness laugher for the boys in blue. Their first since they beat the Angels 12-1 back on April 25th. Boy, were we ever so young. Cole Reagans was on the mound for that game, had all those strikeouts. Man, late April. The record wasn't good then, but there was a lot more season, a lot more road in front of the Royals than there is right now as we sit on June 2nd. The Royals, by the way, if you were curious, 4-8 this year in what are defined by Baseball Reference as blowouts. And your definition may vary, but Baseball Reference defines a blowout as a game decided by 5 or more runs. So no chance in the ninth inning to ever bring the tying run to the plate. That game would be considered a blowout. And the Royals have taken their lumps in such games this year, 4-8 in those games. So the Royals have a lot of questions that need answering moving forward as they play out the final 4 months of the season. I don't think that this team has it quite in them, as we discussed yesterday, to play good enough baseball to get back into the race in a meaningful way, even though the third wildcard spot in the American League is still currently held by a team with a losing record. The Royals still find themselves at 23 wins. It's still the smallest number of wins of any team in baseball. There's a lot of company at 23 wins. Detroit, who won last night. Colorado, who won last night. San Francisco and the Angels lost last night. I think the Giants also did. So there are 5 teams with 23 wins. But that's bottom of the barrel in baseball. And that is where Kansas City resides. And I don't think they're going to lose 100 games. Like I haven't completely thrown in the towel in that fashion. But this is not a team that feels like it's got a run in them to be a serious Central Division contender. Already 10.5 out in the division in June. I laid this all out yesterday. They're playing out the string as far as I'm concerned. But that doesn't mean that things about how you arrive at the win or the loss at the end of the night aren't important, even if the wins and the losses themselves aren't. And 2 of the most important questions that the Royals have for their future right now took center stage in the win last night. The first question: why isn't Jack Caglianone hitting more home runs? Because he homered last night, and that was just number 6 on the year for Cags. You can prorate it out. He's on pace for about 15 home runs. We played over a third of the season. He's got 6 home runs. That is not what the Royals signed up for when they took Jack Caglianone in the first round of the Major League Baseball entry draft. They did not think that they were getting a 15 home run guy. They ain't moving the fences at Kauffman Stadium for Jack Caglianone to be a guy who knocks at the door of 20 home runs. No. The anticipation is that Jack Caglianone will be a 30-homer guy perennially with the chance to hit more than that. But he's got 6 this year as we sit, having played 2 months. And that does not mean that Caglianone is having a bad season. He's not. He's been right around average offensively. Whatever park-adjusted, league-adjusted metric you want to look at, he's been right around average. OPS Plus has him right at average, a 100 OPS Plus. Weighted runs created plus has him just a tick below, 97 WRC Plus. There are a couple of trends for Cags this year that I don't love. His strikeout rate was around 22% last year as a rookie. It's up around 30% this year. If you're going to strike out 30% of the time, you better hit a lot of home runs. You better do a lot of damage on the balls that you do hit. And Cags' average, even sitting at just 240 or so, is being floated by a 330 batting average on balls in play, thanks to some infield hits. And Jack Caglianone is not the kind of guy that you can count on getting a lot of infield hits, generally speaking. So a couple of trends that I don't love, but I think it's safe to say that Caglianone is a better hitter than he was last season. Some of that is simply it would be hard to be worse. But most of the other database metrics are trending upward for Jack Caglianone. There is almost nobody in Major League Baseball, literally almost nobody, who hits the ball harder more often than Jack Caglianone. His average exit velocity of 93.8 miles per hour is in the 96th percentile in all of baseball. His 58.5% hard hit rate, how often does he hit the ball hard? 58.5% of the time. That is in the 99th percentile. If your kid is testing in the 96th and the 99th percentile, go buy him a chocolate shake to celebrate. Like, that's a big deal. That is the kind of thing that presages good results. What are you trying to do every time you step to the plate? Hit the ball hard. Jack Caglianone does that as well as anyone across Major League Baseball. Last year, one of Caglianone's problems was he hit the ball on the ground too often. So this year we wanted fewer ground balls. We wanted more balls in the air. And we're getting that. Instead of a 50-50 split like last year, Cags is hitting the ball in the air 57% of the time. And only 2.5% of those batted ball outcomes have been pop-ups. That's good news. That's a positive trend that Caglianone is elevating the ball. So why then only 6 home runs? 2 reasons. First of all, most of his balls in the air, pretty low trajectory balls in the air. Line drives, if you will. Of those batted ball events that are in the air, 29.7% of his batted balls have been line drives compared to 24.6% fly balls. His launch angle, I know. Some of you are rolling your eyes. Some of you are like, Dan, too many numbers, man. But walk with me here. Launch angle. You can sort of understand this if you ever took a science class, right? You ever built a catapult in science class? That was, man, what year was that? 5th grade? 5th or 6th grade, we built catapults in science class. And we had to figure out, like, how far are we going to send a projectile? What is the optimal launch angle to launch a catapult high and far? It's no different in baseball. Jack Caglianone's launch angle of 7.2 degrees, still well below the Major League Baseball average, which is about 12.5. So not lifting the ball, hitting it in the air, but not getting the lift. And also not getting it enough to the pull side. Because you look at any hitter across baseball, most of their home runs, most of their damage is to the pull side. And Caglianone still isn't pulling the ball in the air often enough. His pull air percentage, how many times he's pulling the ball in the air, line drives or fly balls, 16.9%. That's up from last year, but it's still right at league average. Meanwhile, he's hitting the ball in the air straight, center field in the alleys, at 23.7%. But as you saw last night, if you saw Jack Caglianone's home run, which I also must note, came off a left-handed pitcher. How about that? That was a ball hit to left center field. Jack Caglianone hits the ball hard enough and is strong enough and has good enough bat speed that he can hit the ball out of the park to all fields. He doesn't need to change his swing to try to pull the ball in the air to hit home runs. And in doing so, sacrifice any other gains he's trying to make as a hitter in this, his first full big league season. I retain faith that the home runs are going to come for Caglianone. That he is going to hit the ball higher in the air and pull it more often. And that he is going to be that power source in the middle of this Royals order for many years to come. Because you can tweak an approach, you can tweak a swing to get to a point where you are hitting the ball out front and pulling the ball in the air more often. You know, was a great example of this. Jose Bautista. Remember Jose Bautista? Remember him as a Royal? You probably don't. He was a Royal for about a blink of an eye, right? Then he gets to Toronto, and they tell him in Toronto, hey, why don't you try hitting the ball out front in the air a bit more often? And then he goes and wins an MVP. And he's one of the best power hitters in baseball for a solid half decade. You can make those little tweaks to get the most out of your raw ability, but you can't teach the raw ability. And Jack Caglianone is big and strong and has a fast bat and hits the crap out of the baseball. And that's what you can't teach. The other stuff will come in time. I'd have liked to have seen it develop a little faster, but not all development is linear. It took Bobby Witt Jr. 3 years to be a superstar. If it takes Jack Caglianone that long, well, we'll be talking about him as an all-star candidate at this time next year. And that's a pretty good outcome. Here's the other question from last night. Is Luinder Avila a starting pitcher? He looked the part last night. 5 innings of 1-run ball, struck out 5, walked 4. Gave up the dinger to J.J. Bleday, who's been red hot in the Reds order after being cast off by both the Marlins and the A's, but only gave up 1 other hit in his 5 innings of work. I've long been in favor of giving Avila the chance to fail as a starting pitcher. I think every young pitcher with an arm like his deserves the chance to be a failed starter before you decide for good that they are a relief pitcher. And right now, Avila stands to get that chance with Cole Reagans and Chris Bubich still on the injured list and all of the minor league depth having either been injured or designated for assignment. The Royals have made some changes to Avila's pitch arsenal this year relative to how he used his pitches as an exclusive reliever in his 11-inning cup of coffee last year. Last year, he threw his curveball more often out of the bullpen than he threw any other pitch. 32% of the time. This year, he's only throwing the curveball about 8% of the time. He started to work into changeup slightly more often, and he's throwing his sinking fastball, two-seamer or sinker, however, the StatCast calls it a sinker. He's throwing that more often than his straight four-seam fastball. The problems for Avila are twofold. Number one, he hasn't thrown enough strikes. You saw that last night. 45 strikes and 86 pitches. That's not good enough. You got to be in the zone more often than that. You can't be in so many full counts. You can't be in so many three-ball counts because then you don't get a chance to overwhelm somebody, take them out of the strike zone. And that's the other problem. He doesn't get guys to chase out of the strike zone often enough. His chase rate against well below average this year. And when you don't throw enough strikes and you have to get back into the count, your fastball tends to, well, be a little bit more hittable because you're trying to guide it into the strike zone rather than cutting it loose and letting the velocity or letting the movement of the sinker do it for you. And as a result, Avila's fastball has been getting pretty hard this year. Hitters are batting .414 against his sinker this year. That's his most commonly used pitch. And the league is hitting .414 against it. Been a while since somebody's hit 400 in a major league season. He's got everybody looking like Ted Williams against the sinker. The fastball, the four-seam fastball, straight fastball, however you want to term it, they're hitting 296 against. So Avila has to get back into the strike zone early in counts. He's got to start working from ahead. That's going to give his stuff a chance to play up. But I do like that he started to work in the changeup. He still has the curveball, which was actually in his relief stint last year. And look, breaking stuff plays up in shorter bursts because you can spin it harder. You can really rip it because you know you're only working one inning and not 5 or 6 at minimum. The curveball was actually Avila's best pitch last year. And as a starter, he's kind of pocketed that a little bit. I'm interested to see him work that in a little bit more as he moves forward because you got to be more than just a two-pitch guy if you are going to be a starter for the long haul. But it looks to me, based upon how the pitch arsenal for Avila is being managed, that they are trying to get him to develop multiple off-speed looks, a changeup to lefties, two different shapes of breaking ball. This is all stuff you do when you still believe that there is starter upside in your young pitcher. And that encourages me that the Royals see that in him. And he flashed a little bit of that last night. Got some swing and miss, had one awesome slider to Tyler Stevenson. It was in the second inning on a 3-2 pitch where he just totally locked Stevenson up right on right through a front door slider, and Stevenson's knees just ratcheted into place. And the pitch was not quite down the middle, but right on the inside corner for strike 3. You can't throw a better slider than that on a full count to a right-handed hitter. So good signs for Avila last night. Certainly some things to work through. A good sign for Caglianone, a home run to left center off of a left-hander. And that's kind of what we're left to look at with this 2026 Royal squad is we're looking for the young guys to show some positive signs because it does turn into, all right, now you're watching like Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be on the Kansas City Royals next year. Ignore the clickbait that is sure to come at the trade deadline. Boy, what could the Royals get for Bobby Witt Jr.? They're not going to do that. I can promise you that. But whether it's guys like Avila or Caglianone who are still rounding into becoming the player that the Royals hope that they can be, or Carter Jensen being in the same boat, or whether it's a guy like Michael Massey trying to prove he's a major leaguer. Mass is stinging the ball of late. Hit another home run last night. It's 2 in 2 games for the veteran second baseman. Those are the things to watch as we move forward in this dismal season for the Royals. But again, Tyler pointed out, I gave him the first word, I give him the last word. They're undefeated in June, baby. Undefeated in June. It's a brand new month. And that felt like a brand new ball team out there, even if only for a day. We'll take a timeout, come back. We'll get your reaction, 785-272-9429 on the text line. You can also interact in the live chat on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. Remember, question of the day, who should throw out the first pitch at Hoagland Ballpark for Game 1 of the Super Regional between Kansas and Oklahoma? I want to hear who you think should throw out the first pitch. Text it, drop it in the YouTube chat. We'll come back with your reaction. We'll talk some KU baseball. We got some NFL football, AFC contender tiers to get to. We're going to talk to Michael Swain of Fog.net. We got a great show on this Tuesday, and sure glad you're here on 580 Sports Talk. Some fun answers already to the question of the day. Text line 785-272-9429. 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. Who should throw out the first pitch at the Hog on Saturday night? Game 1 of that Super Regional, Kansas and Oklahoma. Want to hear your thoughts. Royals were winners last night. Jack Caglianone, 2 hits, including his 6th home run of the year out to the opposite field, hit it out to left center. And if you were watching, like, that was not a violent swing from Caglianone by any stretch of the imagination. That goes to what everybody was saying about Cags when they called him up last year. Like, he doesn't have to sell out for power. All he's got to do is touch it. He's big and he's strong, and it's going to go a long way. And he got a hanging slider from the Reds reliever, the left-hander Brandon Liebrandt. And if that is a last name that is familiar to you Royals fans, it ought to be, and that is Charlie's son. Royal great Charlie Liebrandt, whom I personally never forgave as a 5-year-old when he gave up that home run to Kirby Puckett in Game 6 of the 91 World Series. I was a little pint-sized Braves fan for the 91 World Series. They were a Superstation team. Denver didn't have a team yet. I would, if baseball had never come to the Mile High City, I'd be a Braves fan to this day. Still stinging about Liebrandt giving up that home run to Puckett in 91. Anyhow, neither here nor there. Cags hits that home run to the opposite field. So he's got 6 on the year, batting average up to 242, OPS at 711, which is the second best among regulars, third best if you consider Michael Massey a regular at this point. A text from the 785 says the best hitters all try to go opposite field. Ask the guys like George Brett and Freddie Freeman to name some of the absolute best at their profession. The is Freddie Freeman a Hall of Famer debate is one I'm happy to have. I think he is, especially if he gets to 3,000 hits, which is not impossible, but I think he's a Hall of Famer even if he doesn't get there. Anyway, you're right. George Brett, Freddie Freeman, you think of those guys, you think of complete hitters, guys who hit for average and for power. With respect to both of those guys, they don't have the power that Caglianone has. So the question for Caglianone is, if he's developed as this complete hitter, if you want to see him be an all-fields guy with power, would you rather have that? If he's going to strike out too much and not have enough foot speed to run out these infield hits, and that might mean that his average doesn't look like a prime George Brett batting average, that his average looks more like 260, 270 with 20, 25 home runs? Or would you rather see him be a guy that, okay, maybe 240 is about his ceiling as a batting average, but he has 40 home runs? I think I'd probably rather have that version of the player. What you don't want to go too far to the extreme and he turns into Joey Gallo, right? He turns into, you guys are old school enough, some of you. He turns into like a Rob Deere. Like or Mark Reynolds. You know, guys who strike out 200 times, but yeah, they got their 30 dingers. Like, there is potential for Caglianone to be a better hitter than that. I don't think you look at Cags and see George Brett. I think you should be looking at him and seeing this is a guy who should hit more home runs than any Royal ever hits. If you're lucky enough to keep him in Kansas City for the long haul, that guy should set records. Power records. Especially give him a friendly porch at the new park. So that's the difficult line you walk with a kid that talented, just trying to find his way when you know he doesn't have to sell out for his power. But he may not make enough contact to be the kind of guy who's going to hit 300 for you. I'll take the 40 home runs. If he can't hit, if he's not going to be a 300 hitter, I would rather start to see him sacrifice for the power a little bit. But he's still so young. He's 23. He's a ways away from having to make that decision or have anybody make that decision for him. Royals tonight will send Noah Cameron to the bump. The left-hander looking to build upon a few good outings in a row. He was fine against the Yankees the other day. 5 innings, 2 runs on 4 hits. Had back-to-back quality starts before that. He'll go up against fellow left-hander Andrew Abbott for the Reds, who was pretty good last year until he struggled down the stretch, got off to a terrible start this year, but has allowed 3 runs or fewer in each of his last 6 starts. And 3 of those 6 have been of the quality variety, lowering his ERA to 4.02 in the process. He's not a bat misser, 42 strikeouts in 62 2/3. So Royals going to have the opportunity to put some balls in play against the lefty. Carter Jensen will get a day off against the left-hander. So Lane Thomas is in the leadoff spot, followed by Bobby Witt Jr. at short. Salvador Perez back in the lineup doing the catching. Starling Marte and his 2 RBI this season will bat cleanup. Then Vinny Pasquantino at first, Nick Lofton at third, Jack Caglianone back in there against the lefty. We're getting what we want. He's in right field. Tyler Tolbert is in left field tonight. Michael Massey bats ninth at second base. Third straight day with Michael Garcia out of the lineup. Have to wonder if an IL stint is coming, but it's not coming today. Royals have already made roster moves today. They selected, or rather optioned, Eli Morgan back down to AAA after he pitched in 3 of the last 4 games, including last night. Quick aside here. It's a 9-1 game in the ninth. That would have been a really good spot to get Matt Strahm back on a big league mound after you just activated him from the IL 3 days ago. It would have been a really good spot to get Lucas Erceg some confidence in a low leverage, low stress situation. Get those final 3 outs, shake hands like you know how to do. Would have been a really good spot for those things. Instead, no, they just rolled out the same mop-up guys that they'd been rolling out, including Morgan, third day in 4, and he'd thrown 20-plus pitches in each of those first 2 outings. And he did fine, like not a knock on Morgan's performance. He gave up a run, but he did fine, struck out the side. But just, that felt short-sighted by Matt Quatraro. And since I've already said that the Royals need to fire him, I guess I can start being hypercritical and a little bit nitpicky about bullpen management now. But hey, a win is a win, I suppose. And Lucas Erceg will be fresh to blow a save tonight if the opportunity arises. We'll take a break. Question of the day today: who should throw out the first pitch at the Hog on Saturday? Because unbelievably, KU is hosting the Super Regionals this weekend. We'll talk about it next. 580 Sports Talk. .345 on 580 Sports Talk. If we'd have had a regular length of show yesterday, we would have ended the show. I'm pretty certain it happened right around the top of the 6 o'clock hour with Oklahoma hitting a walk-off home run to defeat Georgia Tech and win the Atlanta Regional, eliminating the number 2 national seed from the NCAA baseball tournament and sending the Super Regional to the Hog. Lawrence had never hosted a regional before. It had certainly never hosted a Super Regional before. What's another history-making weekend in Lawrence? It'll be KU and OU. Old school Big 8 feelings for this one. And the Super Regional will start Saturday for the Jayhawks and the Sooners. Some of the Supers will start on Friday. Others will start on Saturday. KU and OU are a Saturday start. I actually think the extra day of rest is beneficial for a couple of reasons. Number one, KU gets a full extra day of rest than Oklahoma did because Oklahoma had to play yesterday and Oklahoma has to travel for the Super Regional, though, like, Norman to Lawrence is not like onerous travel by any stretch of the imagination, but you're still not sleeping in your own beds. So that's an advantage, I think, for Kansas. I also think the extra day of rest can only help the back end of Dan Fitzgerald's bullpen because it's very clear that Kansas is going to hold on for dear life with their starting pitching for games 1, game 2, and game 3. And as soon as they are able, Ryan Ritter, Bodie Ray, we got 12 outs. You guys got them? And that's really it. Like, that's going to be, I think, the formula for Kansas in this Super Regional is, and obviously you'd like to think that Dominic Bagley could get you deep into the game in game 1 on Saturday. Would imagine he'll be the game 1 starter as he was in the regional against Northeastern. If you can get 6, 7 out of Bagley, and then you only have to get 9 or 6 outs from Ritter and Ray on the plus side, that's a massive advantage going into the rest of the weekend. But that's how they're going to lay it out. As soon as they run into a spot of trouble, Ritter, who's back in the good graces, he kind of had a rough end to his regular season, but he was quite good in the regional. Ritter's the bridge, and everyday Bodie Ray is the closer. And I think having an extra day of rest for those guys who were worked pretty hard in pretty high stress in the regional against Arkansas, in particular on Saturday and Sunday, I think that can only help the Jayhawks. The bracket is set. 7 of the 16 national seeds were eliminated in their regionals. Last night, Texas A&M bounced at home by USC. Can you believe it's been 20 years since USC's been in a super regional? Whatever happened to West Coast baseball, man? Used to be every year champion was from out west, or at least somebody was playing deep. And look, I mean, UCLA was number 1 national seed, and they didn't make it. And Oregon's in a super, and USC this year. But, like, man, whatever happened to those West Coast powers? Where's Cal State Fullerton? Where's Long Beach? Where's Pepperdine? Pepperdine won a natty in my lifetime. Like, Arizona State lost in the regional, in large part because the Big 12 Player of the Year threw his bat after striking out, got ejected and suspended for the regional final. Not great. Arizona was terrible this year. Like, whatever happened to West Coast baseball, man? Like, got to bring the feeling back out on the West Coast. Anyhow, so the field is set, and much like softball, if you followed any of the softball, they don't reseed at this stage, and they also don't reseed going into the College World Series. So the halves of the bracket are going to be the halves of the bracket. On one side of the bracket, you've got the Morgantown Super Regional, West Virginia, the 16 seed, walking it off. They're going to host Cal Poly. Christopher pointed this out in the live chat on YouTube. How about the NCAA seeding KU and West Virginia 15 and 16, so they have to go to the top 2 teams for the Super, and it totally backfired on them. I love it. I'm glad you pointed that out, Christopher, because that is a beautiful thing. They totally lined it up, and we're just giving the Big 12 kind of charity hosting roles. Like, yeah, but then we're giving you brutal number 2 seeds out of the SEC, and then you got to go to the top 2 national seeds if you want to get to Omaha. All right, bet. All West Virginia has to do is beat Cal Poly twice, and they're going to Omaha. That's the Morgantown Super. And then the winner of that game in their first College World Series game will play either Troy or Little Rock. One of those teams is going to be one of those 4 teams, West Virginia, Cal Poly, Troy, and Little Rock, after the first day of the College World Series, will be 2 wins away from the championship. Isn't that something? The other side of that, the other pairing that side of the bracket, the Chapel Hill Super, North Carolina, the 5 national seed. They've got USC, and then Auburn plays Ole Miss. Auburn, the number 4 seed, nationally. Ole Miss won the Lincoln Regional in upset. The other side of the bracket is the Lawrence Super with Kansas and Oklahoma. They will be matched up in Omaha against the winner of the Tuscaloosa Super Regional, 7-seed Alabama taking on St. John's, who upset Florida State. The other portion of that side of the bracket is by far the toughest because it's the only quadrant where all of the national seeds advanced. Number 6, Texas hosts number 11, Oregon. Number 3, Georgia hosts number 14, Mississippi State. So KU definitely has the harder side of the bracket to get to, but if you're talking about the side of your bracket in Omaha for a program like Kansas, that'd be one of those good problems. But I want your answer. 785-272-9429, the YouTube live chat. Who should throw out the first pitch at the Hog on Saturday at 5 o'clock? Who knows? Maybe somebody out there is listening and they'll take our advice. Let us know. We'll wrap up the 3 o'clock hour with your answers next on 580 Sports Talk. All right, got some good answers here from the listeners. KU's going to open their Super Regional on Saturday night, 5 p.m. at Hoagland Ballpark against Oklahoma. Who should throw out the first pitch? Got to have the ceremonial first pitch, right? I don't think it's going to take much to get the crowd stirred up. I think things will be plenty stirred up at the Hog based on what we saw if the regional was any indication. And obviously Arkansas, because they brought their own fans and they've got a baseball tradition. Obviously there was some juice there, but this is KU and Oklahoma. There's a lot of history here across all sports. It's not going to take much to juice the crowd, I don't think. But we have some good answers from the listening audience. Christopher goes with one that is a fairly obvious one. Bill Self in the YouTube chat. Obviously, he's an Oklahoman, went to Oklahoma State, 23 seasons at Kansas. So Bill Self, who was at the clincher on Sunday night, saw him in the crowd, has some other thoughts. Joe in the chat suggests Perry Ellis. I don't know what Perry's doing these days. Paul suggests Gary Woodland. I don't think he's going to be. Well, he would hope that he is booked. I think he will be. He's playing the Memorial in Ohio this weekend. The Memorial is a signature event, so I think it's a no cut. So he's going to play the weekend no matter what. So G-Dub, unfortunately, otherwise detained. Let's see. Ryan suggests Larry Brown and bring out the corpse of Billy Tubbs. Billy would get a kick out of that, probably. If he were here to enjoy that a joke like that, I think he would. From the text line from the 785 suggests the great KU coach Mark Mangino. That could be fun. Another from the 785 says get a royal great like George Brett or Frank White. Another one from the 785 says have the mascots do it. Everybody loves a mascot. One texter from the 785 is thinking along the same lines as me because I think there's a real obvious guy they've got to get out there for game one. But this texter from the 785 says first pitch should be made by Jayhawk favorite for those of us who felt his pain, Archie Marshall. If you're too young to remember, and frankly, I had to educate myself on the Archie Marshall story, but was on the 1988 National Championship basketball team, but was injured and not able to play in the NCAA tournament that year. You're thinking along the same lines, texter, as I am. It has to be Danny Manning, right? It's got to be Danny. The all-time KU versus Oklahoma sports moment is the 1988 National Championship game. That is the moment. That is the KU versus OU moment to end them all. That is KU beating OU for all the marbles in an NCAA tournament. You got to get Danny Manning out there for the first pitch. Has to be. And if Larry Brown will come too, all the better. My alternate suggestion was Jason Bean, but I think he's starting a playoff game in the UFL this weekend, so I think he's booked pretty solid too. We'll take a timeout. When we come back in the 4 o'clock hour, we'll talk a little football, a Vegas assessment of the AFC contenders, and Michael Swain joins us for Jayhawk Weekly on 580 Sports Talk. Well, let's get it. 580 Sports Talk, hour number 2 on a Tuesday. Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis with you on the sports voice of Kansas. 580 WIBW FM 104.9. Online at 580WIBW.com and on our streaming video channels, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube and WIBW News on Facebook. Got an hour and a half left to hang out. Really more of an hour and 24 minutes now. Royals baseball tonight with a 5:30 pregame coverage and a 6:10 first pitch. So Royals look to make it 2 wins in a row to open the month of June after their 9-2 throttling of the Reds last night. Noah Cameron and Andrew Abbott, a matchup of finesse lefties on the mound tonight at Great American Ballpark. Again, 6:10 first pitch, 5:30 pregame right here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. Mentioned that the Royals did make a roster move today. Beck Way called up from AAA Omaha, will make his Major League and Royals debut when he is first called upon. Way is the last player left in the organization from the Andrew Benintendi trade. It was acquired in midseason 2022 at the deadline when the Royals sent Benintendi to the Yankees. Way, a former fourth-round pick, right-handed pitcher. ERA in the 4s at Omaha, but a nice 42-10 strikeout-to-walk ratio in his 30 innings of work. He replaces Eli Morgan on the 26-man roster. Morgan sent down to AAA. He'd worked 3 days in the last 4, so this is as much about needing a fresh arm because apparently, Matt Strahm can't get a game after coming off the IL, and Lucas Erceg's still the closer, I guess. So, why use those guys last night up by 8, ease them back in, get them some confidence? No. Just throw out your mop-up guys. I don't know. I'm being nitpicky, I know. But
this team couldn't win a game last week, Dan. Come on.
Yeah, I know. I'm being nitpicky.
They won a game big last night.
But 23-37. You kind of there's a lot of nits. It's a lot of nits to pick there. Anyway, game 2 of that series is coming up tonight. But in the meantime, coming up in this 4:00 hour of the program, we got Jayhawk Weekly at the bottom of the hour. Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Get Michael's thoughts on KU hosting a regional. Maybe Michael Swain should throw out the first pitch. You see if I'll ask him if that would be something he would be prepared to do if called upon.
Yeah, I don't know. He's a big baseball guy.
I also don't either. But we'll ask him if he would throw out the first pitch if asked. That has been something I've wanted to do my entire life. I would like to be just famous enough to have somebody ask me to come throw out the first pitch.
You're high school, right? Like you played college. You went to college to play ball.
Yes. That's the way to say it. Yes, that is the way to say it. That is the most accurate. I don't know. Like, I want to can the Monarchs or, gosh, how many years? We got our 100-year anniversary coming up, right? Here at WIBW. And we've been on the Royals radio network every step of the way. What I really want from the Royals, I will settle for being asked to throw out the first pitch. Don't get me wrong. Kansas City Royals. I would love to throw out the first pitch of the game. But what I really want is for the 3 of us to do the hot dog race. You, me, and Brendan.
Yes.
That's what I really want.
Yes, I'm in.
That is what I want more than anything. I would do anything to make that happen. Colin in the live chat on YouTube asked if I would throw out the first pitch at a Washburn baseball game. Anytime, Colin. I'm loose.
I think he has the ability to get you to do it.
He might be. Yeah, Colin's got the stroke to make that happen out there at Steve Anson Field. But in all seriousness, I would love to throw out the first pitch, ceremonial first pitch before a game. I would. I don't. Yeah, like high school game, college game, minor league, Royals game 1 of the World Series, like whatever, like big to little, doesn't matter to me. Like I want to throw out the first pitch at a baseball game. I want to do it. I want to do it so bad. And I want to do the hot dog race. Honestly, I would rather do the hot dog race with you two guys, with you and Brendan, than throw out the first pitch to the Royals game. We gotta get. I need to know who I need to reach out to. I got to know. Maybe when we get to 1,000 YouTube subscribers, I can say, hey, listen, we're kind of a big deal. We have 1,000 YouTube subscribers.
We've also been your affiliate on a radio.
We have.
Since 1969.
We've been on every pitch.
Day one.
Every pitch of Royals baseball on these airwaves. Show us some love. I would want to be mustard.
I'm all in for ketchup.
You make Brendan be relish?
Yeah.
Well, he's not around. He doesn't get to advocate.
They had the racing. I don't know if this is a typical thing at KU baseball games, because obviously until Saturday I'd never been to one, but they had those there.
The hot dogs?
Yeah.
Did they race them?
Maybe not hot dogs. They had the condiments. I'm pretty sure. Okay. If I remember correctly.
Oh, the condiment race. Yeah, it's the condiment race.
Yeah.
Well, the hot dog race with the condiment, represented by the condiments.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. It's so it's the president's race at Nationals games, right?
Yes.
Is it the Mount Rushmore presidents or?
Oh, that's a great question. No, because is Lincoln on the Mount Rushmore?
Yeah.
Okay, I think it is. I think so. I've never even thought about it like that.
It's Washington, Jefferson, Roosevelt, Lincoln.
So in 2012, they had this promo. So I don't know if it's, behind these things, but the Nationals, they started that in 2006 or 7 when they, you obviously have to be established to start traditions.
Mm-hmm. 2006, according to
Teddy Roosevelt,
MLB.com.
Teddy Roosevelt hadn't won one.
Right. He finally got to win. Was it a playoff game he finally got to win?
Yeah, so it was like Teddy in 12. Like they had this whole campaign. They were trying to get him to win, and then he finally won in that, I think, that first playoff game in 2012.
I remember that being a big deal.
There's a bumper sticker somewhere on my dad's like toolbox at home. It literally says Teddy in 12.
That's funny. Now, Rockies games when I was a kid, they used to have the toothbrush race. It was like a tooth. It was a thing of dental floss. It was a toothbrush, and it was sponsored by, I think, Comfort Dental. It was so stupid. it was so third rate. It was so lame. Like it just pales in comparison to like the best executed of those things. But anyway, let this be official notice to Royals brass that we want to be in the hot dog race. We want to be in the hot dog race so bad. Please let us be in the hot dog race. Get us to 1,000 YouTube subscribers and make our case stronger. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. We're 22 away at last check from 1,000. I know we got some heroes out there not yet subscribed. Go check us out, 580 Sports Talk. We had a couple more suggestions for who should throw out the first pitch at the KU Oklahoma game 1 of the Super Regional. Christopher suggested Ted Owens, the elder statesman of KU sports. Love to have him out and honored for sure. Actually got to meet Ted Owens. He spoke at a banquet in Wichita back when I was living and working out there. So I got to meet Ted and speak with him, and I enjoyed that.
I think the easy one is Bill.
Yeah, we had Bill self-suggested. Texter from the 913 was picking up what I was putting down, and just as I was laying out the case for Danny Manning, they texted that Danny Manning should be the choice. I just think you have to do, like, when you say Kansas versus Oklahoma, the first thing you think about is the 1988 national championship game, and the first thing you think about is Danny and the Miracles. So I think if Danny will do it, get him to the hog, let him throw out that first pitch. I think that would be electric. So Mark H suggests Brendan. He's tall and he's a KU grad. He is tall. And he is a KU grad. Both of those things are certainly true. I don't know how Brendan's arm is. Been a minute since we played catch. To which I mean we've never played catch. But tell you what, we could maybe all three of us could throw out the first pitch and do the hot dog race.
Yeah,
they gotta get 3 guys out there to catch the first pitch, but we can all do it. We can all do it. 580 Sports Talk Day at Kauffman Stadium. I'm just putting it in the universe and seeing what transpires.
The future when we get to 10,000 subscribers.
Hey, listen, if we get to 10K, you won't be able to tell me anything. Anyway, that was all a very long way to tell you that Michael Swain will join the program at the bottom of this hour for Jayhawk Weekly.
Yeah, way to waste 10 minutes.
Not a waste. We're having fun. Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, will join us bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. We've also got another round of What Is Wrong With You coming up. And we're going to talk a little bit of AFC contender tiers as well. Your text, 785-272-9429. And your interaction on the live chat on YouTube is also welcome. Again, the name of the YouTube channel is 580 Sports Talk. So there are two major trades in the AFC. Yes, yes, both involved AFC teams, but two major NFL transactions yesterday. Two massive offseason dominoes. The one everybody knew was going to happen, A.J. Brown going to the Patriots. And the one nobody saw coming, Myles Garrett to the Los Angeles Rams. There could be some other moves. It sounds like the Packers are close to trading for Cardinals edge rusher Josh Sweat, which would give the Packers one good, healthy pass rusher while Micah Parsons rehabs his knee. So that seems like the kind of move the Packers really ought to make. But as far as the AFC in particular goes, I'm not sure there's another move out there that's going to move the needle a whole lot on the capabilities of or the perceptions of an AFC team, barring the kinds of things you can't predict, like significant offseason or preseason injuries. So there was a lot of odds movement yesterday based on those two trades, the Garrett trade, the Brown trade. Most significantly, movement around the Garrett trade to the point where the Rams are now a clear consensus favorite to win the Super Bowl.
They're mine, so.
Yeah, I would pick them right now, too. Like, we're not to September yet. We're not yet. We will be 100 days out of Chiefs kickoff on Saturday. Saturday will be 100, which means on Monday's show, we'll start our countdown. Our countdown was popular last year, so we'll bring it back. And we'll count the days until Chiefs kickoff. We'll start with number 98. We'll have to skip 99, but we'll start with 98 on Monday because Saturday is 100 days to Monday Night Football at Arrowhead Stadium.
I can't wait.
So, yeah, there's a long way from now until September, and stuff can happen. But if you were making me pick a Super Bowl favorite right now, yes, I would agree with the consensus that it is the Los Angeles Rams. But I was looking at the consensus odds to win the Super Bowl for AFC teams. And the odds consensus here coming from the Action Network, who compiles odds from a bunch of the different sports books that are out there. These aren't from the prediction markets. This isn't Polymarket, Kalshi, any of that stuff. Don't understand it, and frankly, don't care to, because I think that's going to be regulated fairly heavily at some point. The odds consensus gives us what I think are 5 pretty clear tiers in the AFC. And I want to see if you think that these are right. I want to see if you think Vegas is on the right track here. Because usually they are, right? Because that's how they have so many tall, shiny buildings in Las Vegas. The favorites in the AFC, as it currently stands, Buffalo and Baltimore are both 10-1 on the consensus odds to win the Super Bowl. 10-1 plus 1,000, however you want to look at it. Those are your twin AFC favorites. Your second tier of contenders, Kansas City, the Chiefs are 15-1. The Patriots and Chargers are 16-1. The third tier of contenders has Denver and Houston, both at 20-1. Cincinnati, the Bengals are 22-1. And Jacksonville at 25-1. Then you get into the long shots. There are 2 of those. Really only 2 teams that kind of exist in the tier between like contender / fringe contender to our last tier. The long shots, Indianapolis, Colts are 55-1, and the Steelers are 70-1.
Jeez.
And then you have what I refer to as the ass tier. These are, if you told me that these would be 5 of these 6 worst teams in the NFL by the end of the season, it'd be these 5 teams and the Cardinals, I would totally believe it.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Vegas at 125 to 1. Tennessee at 150 to 1. Cleveland at 175 to 1. The Jets at 200 to 1. And the consensus least likely team to win the Super Bowl, the Miami Dolphins, at 250 to 1. We'll start from the bottom and work our way up. Any objections to the ass tier here? I think that this is probably right and in the right order, where, like, if you squint and if on the off chance that Mendoza is really good right away, which I think he'll be good. I don't think he'll be like really good right away.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems if he can get on a rhythm with those receivers, right? Like if he
they don't have any receivers.
That's the problem.
They got two good tight ends, and like Jack Besh is their best receiver.
So
Trey
we're
Tucker.
going to see a lot of throwing to the tight ends.
But they've got Ashton Genty. They beefed up the offensive line. Defensively, they're in decent shape. Like that is, to me, the team that is likeliest of those five to be standing at the end of the year and say, hey, you know what? We weren't ass at all. We took some strides forward. We escaped the ass tier. And then Tennessee would be the second most likely team to escape that because, like, what if there's a big year two leap for Cam Ward? And what if Robert Saleh fixes their defense? Those things would not be unprecedented. I still don't think there's enough talent there to get them into contention, although it is the AFC South. But those two teams, to me, you can almost argue me into putting those two teams into like a probably ass tier and then like the definitely ass tier of Cleveland and the Jets and the Dolphins. The Colts and Pittsburgh being in the same tier is fine with me because I think these are two pretty unpleasant situations that I don't like thinking about.
Yeah.
Like there is no chance those teams are going to win the Super Bowl, but they do not feel like teams that are going to totally bottom out. They feel like 8-9 win teams. I think Pittsburgh did make the playoffs last year. Are they going to be able to keep that going without the coach that seemed to always get them to a winning season and a playoff berth no matter what? Remains to be seen. So I think those two teams being together is right to me. That feels right. The third tier of Denver, Houston, Cincinnati, and Jacksonville being a cut below the top five in the conference. If anything, I think this might be too low on Houston. I think if there's one team that I would argue to bump up into that second tier of these four, it would be Houston. And I think the reason I say that, number one, I think their defense is the defense that everybody thinks Denver's is. And that's not to say Denver does not also have a very good defense, but Houston has, if there's a defense that's going to go win you a championship on its own, it's Houston's. And CJ Stroud stunk in the playoffs last year. He did. He stunk out the joint. I'd still much rather have him running my offense than Bo Nix.
Yeah.
Much rather. I'm much more comfortable with Stroud than I am with Nix or with Joe Burrow's also on this tier. Like Burrow's health being such a question mark and that remade defense being such a question mark. Like you can see upside for all four of these teams. Denver has, setting aside my feelings about Nix, they've got a really good roster. 1 through 53, it's a very, very good roster. And they didn't do much to get better from last year, but they did make one significant move that's going to help them in adding Jalen Waddle. Cincinnati revamped their defense, and if Burrow's healthy, we know how good that can be. Jacksonville was really, really good last year. Can they keep it up in year two under Liam Cohen? Those are teams, I think, all with upside. I think Houston, though, has more upside than those four.
Yeah.
You'd agree with that?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think we see a lot of these teams that find lightning in a bottle one year. They're just not good the next year. Whether that be injuries catching up or players, getting older or injuries happening over the offseason that stop a player from starting the year or hinder them in any aspect. I think Houston's my top out of that second tier.
The contender tier, the right behind the favorites, Kansas City, New England, and the Chargers. The Chargers, to me, are fascinating because it feels like we do this every year, right? I had a running gag on this show. I've had a running gag over the years where I refer to the Chargers as next year's champions because every March, April, May, June, July, somebody's going to jump on the Charger bandwagon. Somebody's going to start talking about them as being the team to beat in the AFC West and the team to beat in the whole AFC. And look, Jim Harbaugh can really coach. The Mike McDaniel experiment is fascinating. Justin Herbert's talent is undeniable. All those things are true. But I think what ends up happening is you get negatively polarized because it happens every year with the Chargers. We have to do this. They are forever next year's champions, and it never works out, and Herbert never plays well in the playoffs, and they never get there. And Matt Verderame, our NFL insider, has already said he does not think that is a playoff team this year. He does not believe they got better. He thinks their schedule, especially on the front end, is going to be murderous. And that is going to keep them out of the playoffs in what should be a deeper AFC this year. We're talking about 9 teams in the top 3 tiers. Like, that's not bad.
So I have a friend that's a Chargers fan, and it always seems like every offseason he talks up the Chargers, and then they go out there and they don't do very well in the playoffs, or they don't make the playoffs.
Right. So you get negatively polarized. And I do think we get Charger fatigue. A text from 785 says Chargers are perennial fool's gold. I agree with that statement. But I also agree with the statement that they're about as good as New England. Like, I feel about them than I feel about the way I feel about New England, like roster-wise. And like, I think they're on the same level as New England. So I think them having the same odds feels right. But I would drop them. I think that there is separation between Buffalo and Baltimore and Kansas City, and then I think there is separation between Kansas City and that Houston, New England Chargers group, and I would even lump the Chargers in more so with Cincinnati and Jacksonville, where it's like, okay, there's upside here, but like I like Denver's roster a lot better than I like the Chargers roster, and I like Denver's schedule better than I like the Chargers schedule too. So if there's a team that I feel like is probably overrated, it's the Chargers. But we do this every year. And you get to the point where, like, they are going to get their starting tackles back, which they never had those guys healthy together last year. That was kind of a big deal. Herbert's going to play well in a playoff game one of these days, right? It has to happen, right? Maybe not. You'd think, but it keeps not happening. So, listen, if you want to put your money on the Chargers at 16-1, be my guest. Would not be my money. Would not be my investment. We'll take a break here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, we got another round of What Is Wrong With You, and then it's Jayhawk Weekly with Michael Swain of Fog.net coming up on 580 WIBW. So what is wrong with you, time on 580 Sports Talk? We've got two news stories competing today, trying to take down our current weekly champion, which I have dubbed a fish called Baja Blast. Familiar with the film A Fish Called Wanda?
No.
A little before your time. It's a John Cleese movie. It's pretty funny. Anyhow, a fish called Baja Blast. Gentleman in Palm Coast, Florida, loitering outside a Taco Bell at 1 a.m. With his pants down, and as authorities said, with his, quote, I didn't come up with this, quote, chimichanga out, end quote. And a betta fish in a plastic container in his backpack. The fish unharmed, taken to the Humane Society, and has been named, fittingly, Baja Blast. So that's our current weekly champion. We got two news stories today. My story, we are going to Texas, Montgomery County, and we meet police officer Zachary Castanon with the Oak Ridge North Police Department. And nobody is better at sniffing out drunk drivers than Officer Castanon. He has received an award from Mothers Against Drunk Driving Houston chapter called the Distinguished Enforcement Hero Award for removing impaired drivers from the roadways. Well, Officer Castanon apparently figured that the best way to catch a DUI driver is to be one. He was arrested Sunday after a colleague noticed an odor of alcohol coming from Castanon as he was reporting for duty. The officer who detected the odor notified a supervisor. The supervising sergeant then contacted the Texas Department of Public Safety, requesting an independent investigation. Castanon was booked into the Montgomery County Jail on charges of driving while intoxicated and has since been terminated from his position.
Yeah, I can't do that.
That's how you catch one. You think like one, right? You catch a criminal, you got to think like, you got to put yourself in that headspace. How do I catch a drunk driver? I'm going to get loaded and drive. That wasn't his excuse. I can't imagine that was even close to what he was thinking. He's made a really bad decision, and it cost him his job and his credibility in the community that was really, really excited about him as a top-earning police officer in Oak Ridge, and a friend to people who want to keep drunk drivers off the roads. Unfortunately, he put one on the road, and it was himself.
Yeah.
Not a great decision there. What is your story today, Spencer?
Yeah, we're going to go to Henrico, Virginia, a suburb of Richmond. A Florida man is accused of assaulting several employees at a short pump Publix earlier this week. Henrico police say Orlando Lombard, 29, entered the Publix around 5:20 p.m. on Memorial Day and assaulted multiple store employees. When officers arrived, he allegedly turned his aggression towards them. Sources say it took close to 6 officers to gain control of him and calm him down. Lombard is charged with 3 counts of assault, obstruction, and disorderly conduct. Police are investigating whether drugs or alcohol played a role in the incident.
So, judging by the story here, they better have been, and otherwise he just walked in, sound of mind and body, and decided he was going to try and just beat the heck out of everybody at the Publix.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here to get in a fight. Multiple fights.
Not good.
He does get extra Florida man points for actually being named Orlando. Like that's a nifty wrinkle to the Florida man of it all here. Multiple store employees. He walked in and said,
for updates, and we don't have any updates. Unfortunately,
my man walked in and said, "Hey, this Publix, you got a problem, and that problem is me."
Yeah,
that's wild. All right, so we got that story. We've got the Orlando, the Florida man, the Publix pounding. Good one. Vance in the YouTube chat. Publix enemy number 1. That's almost good enough to win the week on its own merit. Also, though, Paul in the YouTube chat referring to the other story as to protect and swerve. So,
these are both really good names.
You know who really wins today? The chat. The chat wins today. I'm going to go with the top DUI cop showing up and getting a DUI himself, or DWI, I suppose. I'm going to go with...
I'm right there with you.
That's really good. I
don't know, man.
Guy had his pants down and a fish in his backpack at the Taco Bell at 1 a.m.
for his boss,
making a run for the border. He and Baja Blast were making a run for the border without anything on south of the border. That continues as our winner on What Is Wrong With You. Michael Swain of Fog.net joins us next for Jayhawk Weekly. We are joined on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline by Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. This is Jayhawk Weekly on 580 Sports Talk. We do it every Tuesday at this time. Michael, if asked, if called upon, would you throw out the first pitch for Game 1 of the Super Regional against Oklahoma Saturday night at the Hog?
I'm not sure how many hundreds of people they'd have to get through before they got to me. I've not thrown a baseball since high school, maybe, when I played baseball. So I may not be too bad, but I might need some warm-up pitch off the side beforehand. But I'm not sure. I think they might get to you guys before they get to me on that one.
You just don't want to 50 cent yourself, right? Like anything above that bar, you feel like you probably did a pretty good job. First call's got to be Danny Manning, right?
That would be up there. I think. Oh wow, who would be the first one? Yeah, that'd be good to get him. I think someone is more sentimental, but Brian Haney deserves some recognition for all the work that he's done covering KU baseball over the years, and having a year like this, I think, is exciting. And obviously, he's got the Round Ball Classic coming up this week, so
sure,
that'd be one that I think would be pretty cool if they could make that happen for him. I'm not sure he'd accept that. I think he's probably too humble for that.
Jason Bean is otherwise occupied. Gary Woodland's playing the Memorial this weekend. We were trying to think of other KU greats that might pick up the phone. But yeah, you think KU OU, you think Danny and the Miracles for sure. And now you're thinking,
how about Devontae?
How about Devontae Graham? That's a good thought too. And Devontae would do it. Devontae would have a great time. Yeah, he'd pop the crowd for sure.
God, yeah. I'm not sure what he's up to these days, though.
KU and OU in a super regional at Hoagland Ballpark. This magical mystery tour of a season continues for the Kansas Jayhawks. And what was remarkable about their regional win was kind of how unremarkable it felt. Like they took care of some business. Even when they fell behind on Sunday, they rallied, scored 11 unanswered runs, held on to win, leaned on their bullpen and their best arms out of the bullpen, and did not flinch from a moment that a lot of times gets pretty big for especially programs that don't often get a regional stage, or in Kansas's instance, have never gotten a regional stage like that. The fact that Dan Fitzgerald's group just did not flinch says a whole lot about their mettle, doesn't it?
Yeah, I feel like the regional is kind of just a whole encapsulation of the season, right? KU has come from behind a lot of times this year, and when the moments were big, you didn't really see him start to flinch, especially against Arkansas on Sunday, where I was starting to think, okay, Monday maybe a winner go home game. Like, what does that look like? And then all of a sudden, you turn around and LeBlanc sending it deep for the 3-run homer, and all of a sudden that just changes the game. So I think it just encapsulates what the season's been like for KU baseball, where they really haven't flinched in spite of facing history and not making the moment too big. And so I just thought it was a great weekend, top to bottom. And obviously I think the stars that KU has really showed out starting on Friday, and then obviously carrying through Sunday, and just the way that they played as a team.
Obviously, a trip to Omaha would be an incredible capstone on this season, but the opportunity again to host the Super Regional, to do it against a historic rival, a Big 8 rival too, and to have back-to-back weekends of atmosphere like this at a place that frankly has kind of lacked for atmosphere over the years at Hoagland Ballpark. What does this symbolize could be next for Kansas baseball? What does this set the stage for the future of this program, just what they've already managed to accomplish?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. When I think about what's next, I think it's just continuing to build it. And obviously you can look at the roster, right, and the work that Dan Fitzgerald and Coyne and the staff that they've done. And you got to keep that going, right? Whether that's, continuing to really hammer away at JUCO. Transfer portal's not something that they've really done a ton of. I think at times maybe just financially, there are probably other programs and other leagues that have a little more money for baseball than Kansas does. So how do you manage the budget, but also how can someone like Travis Goff find different ways to maybe get, fit some extra money to maybe get some more players, or just retain the good players that you have that have remaining eligibility. So that's the roster side. And then obviously there's the infrastructure side of continuing to build things out. Travis talked a little bit about building out the indoor facility. And I think that is obviously the next step to really provide a platform for just more player development. Being where Kansas is, you can look across kind of college baseball, right? There aren't a ton of northern teams that are going far in the NCAA tournament or that are consistently winners, right? You're looking south. And so I think just the fact that what they've been able to do, considering the location, if you're now able to build an indoor facility, how much can that help you maybe be a little bit more sustainable as a program? And then obviously, I think people want to talk about, Hoagland Ballpark and what sort of renovations can be made for the long term. I think keeping the backyard would be really cool for the future. And then obviously you're trying to thread the needle of all of this while knowing that, hey, the football stadium's going on. We've got a basketball program that's commanding top dollar financial resources. And so there's a huge juggling act for Travis Goff. And I think from Fitz's perspective, he deserves every right to pound the table and say, look at what I've done. And I deserve more, because he does. And the work that they've done is just remarkable. And now kind of the next step is finding consistency. And consistency maybe isn't hosting a regional every year, but can you be a consistent NCAA tournament team? Can you make supers every once in a while? And obviously when the opportunity presents itself like it does this year, can you potentially make it to the College World Series, right? That's not out of the question. KU is hosting. They're playing an Oklahoma team that was sub 500 in SEC play. And they just beat an Arkansas team that was above 500 in SEC play. So this is a series that KU has every chance of winning. So you got to take advantage of the opportunities. And I think for Fitz now, it's just a question of how can you find a way to be a consistent team year over year. And he's going to pound the table for the resources, rightfully so.
We're joined by Michael Swain of Fog.net and 24/7 Sports here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Looking at this kind of from a bird's eye view, obviously for the Big 12, with West Virginia being the seed after KU, both of those teams winning their regionals, hosting super regionals after kind of maybe being overlooked by the committee. How big is this for the Big 12 in the baseball landscape sort of things that, one, they get to host regionals, and then they both get to host super regionals, and it potentially could see one team or both teams go to the College World Series.
Yeah, I think it's really important. Obviously, like you said, the Big 12 was very much slept on. And I just, for me, I look at it, it's pretty simple for the NCAA tournament selection. Like, this is the one that I can always pound the table. Like, Kansas swept Nebraska, right? Kansas won the Big 12 and the Big 12 tournament. How is Nebraska going to be a higher seed than Kansas? That comes down to the conference you play, right? Because in terms of when they've played, Kansas won. In terms of the resume, Kansas was better. And so it comes down to the conferences. And so I think it's really big for the Big 12 to show that for West Virginia, yeah, you can get out of a regional that has, Wake and Kentucky. For KU, it's, hey, you got an Arkansas team that felt like it should probably be hosting. Well, KU took care of business. And so I think it's really important for the Big 12 just quality-wise to show that the top-end teams can go toe-to-toe with top-end teams in other conferences. And so I think, again, now looking at supers, right, it's a little bit different now where, UCLA isn't there for West Virginia to maybe be a measuring stick as Cal Poly instead. But I just think perception-wise, I think it's really important that the Big 12 teams took advantage of the regionals and didn't make it a situation where we're sitting here on a Tuesday saying, oh, man, West Virginia got beat by Kentucky or KU got beat by Arkansas. Yeah, like, look, the middling teams in the SEC are just better than the best teams in the Big 12. That would have been not good for perception purposes. So I think across the board, it was a really good weekend for the Big 12 in that regard.
Couple more questions for Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, joining us here for Jayhawk Weekly, as he does every Tuesday at this time on 580 Sports Talk. Michael, it certainly adds an interesting wrinkle to what was already shaping up to be a big football recruiting weekend to have a super regional on campus at the same time, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's very, it's one of those things where you can look across the board. Like, it's going to be probably one of the busier first weekends of June that you've seen around Lawrence. So, as I mentioned, right, you got round ball, you got the regional, and you've got the Bill Self basketball camps, right? They're going on this week. And also you got football recruiting visits going on. Like, it's going to be a huge, huge weekend for the football program, right? As they're trying to fill out some of these final spots in the 2026 class. And it's just going to be a question now of, hey, can you find some time to get the guys over to Holland Ballpark for just a little bit? I don't know if they're going to be able to squeeze them in for a full game, but show them the atmosphere. I know that's something that the football program really does try and do when it's not football season, is take the recruits to a basketball game so they can see what the fan atmosphere is like, what the support's like. And I think they're probably going to try their best to get over to the baseball game. And obviously, with starting on Saturday, guys get in Friday. Most will leave Sunday. So kind of Saturday is definitely the opportunity. But the be interesting to see if they make it. But, yeah, it's going to be a busy, busy weekend in Lawrence.
You had a chance to speak with Bill Self earlier this week. He was actually in Topeka for a KU event and spoke to the media a little bit and talking about his vision for the team. Talked about Christian Reeves, the big man transfer in from College of Charleston, who is still working his way through an injury that he played through last season, had surgery to prepare a labrum injury in his right arm. Is there a level of concern for KU that he maybe won't be ready to start the season, or do they feel like they can get him up to speed by the time he comes out of that sling and preseason preparation starts?
Yeah. So I think it's a little bit of a two-way street. Like, yes, I don't think there's concern about the start of the season, right? Right now, it sounds like early October is the time frame. What you can't afford is setbacks, right? So the sling supposedly comes off at some point this week, and then it's going to be more rehab work and range of motion and building up strength again. What you can't have happen is a setback where all of a sudden it's a month, and then you're looking at November 1st when KU opens the season a few days later. And all of a sudden, Christian Reeves is just now getting back to practice. That's so much time in terms of like working with your teammates and building chemistry. So optimistic that October 1st could be the date. But again, that things need to go smoothly. So it's obviously not ideal that this is how things are going with a guy who could be your starting center. But that's the hand they've been dealt. So they've got to kind of find a way to get him back healthy as soon as possible.
Self also addressed the possibility that there could be an addition to the roster, and there are some roster spots that are open. At what position do you think that would be most likely to see KU add, acknowledging that it's not probably going to be a needle-moving addition?
Yeah, so it sounds right. And I know we talked about this plenty, right, about the whole, budget, how KU's approaching it. I think of this as like, can you find like a Diggy Coit or someone like that? Not as in like how much Diggy ended up playing, but like when they added him, it was like, okay, this is a guy who has been productive. He still is looking for a home. He got a waiver late. Can you find a situation like that? I'm not sure if you're going to find someone that averaged 20 points per game in the MAC like Diggy, but again, something like that where it's a player who has experience maybe. I would look, considering like where things are at with Reeves, I would wonder if KU might lean towards another just big center to give you maybe a little bit more depth, because I think Self talked about too, right? When Reeves is back, KU is going to have a lot of size, but if he's not, KU is going to be small, and that's going to be an issue. So I wonder if that might be where KU would look, but then you could also make an argument about maybe can you find another ball handler that has experience? So I think it's one of those where it's not going to be a marquee or guy that fans are going to say, wow, like this is such a great ad. But considering the fact that you look at the roster right now, and I think it's kind of 8 guys you feel good about, and then a question of which freshmen are ready. Like I think you could say if you're able to find someone with some experience, whether it be front court or just someone that can handle the ball, I think that would be a welcome addition. But again, money-wise, not sure how much is left.
Michael Swain covers the Kansas Jayhawks at fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, and appears on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline with us every Tuesday for Jayhawk Weekly. Michael, always a pleasure. Enjoy the Super Regional. We'll talk to you next week.
Awesome. Sounds great, guys. Talk to you then.
That is Michael Swain. We'll take time out, come back, wrap up this 4 o'clock hour with Random Question Tuesday. Quick round of Random Question Tuesday to wrap up this 4 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk. If you did throw out the first pitch at a baseball game, are you going to the mound or are you throwing it in front of the mound?
The wantingness to go to the mound makes me feel like a man, and then but I feel like it's not going to be good.
See, I'm going to the mound. I don't know. Like, it's been a long time since I reared back and let one rip at 60 feet, 6 inches. A long time. But I have to feel like I could still do it. I couldn't live with myself if I just did the step and throw from 45 feet. I couldn't live with myself. I'd have to. How much would you prepare?
Oh, all day. I would. The minute I learned about it, I'd go to play it against sports. Find me. I don't have a baseball.
Sure.
I'd go find me a baseball and a mitt, and we'd be going all day.
Yeah, I would not be scared. Like if I let it rip from the mound, and I wouldn't spike it. That's the one thing I can promise. I'll throw it over the backstop before I spike it. That's a promise. Unless I fall down.
Last time,
and then that's his own set of
the
problems.
Summer of 23 was the last time I touched the baseball.
Wow. I touch them all the time because my son takes them out of the display I've got in the basement, and they're all over the basement all the time. Coming up, we got 1/2 hour left of the show before Royals baseball, so we got headlines, and that's it. Coming up, 580 Sports Talk. Well, let's get it. Final half hour of 580 Sports Talk for this Tuesday. Thanks for being with us on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, 580WIBW.com, and our streaming video channels as well, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube, WIBW News on Facebook. I am Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuy across the glass. At 5:30, we'll hand it off to the Royals Baseball Network. See if the Royals can win 2 games in a row. They did that and then win another one after that. It's called a winning streak. It has happened before. Got to win the second one in a row before they can win a third one in a row. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. You can only eat an elephant one bite at a time. Any of the other metaphors or adages you'd like to use. Royals were winners last night. They'll try and secure a series win in a 3-game series in Cincinnati. I was saying all day yesterday it was a 4-game series. The way the pocket schedule reads this week, sin, min. And I just transposed.
Well, yeah, it's a 4-game series in Minnesota.
Right.
I knew there was one coming up.
Yes.
I did that the other day when I was thinking about it. And I was like, I knew there's a 4-gamer coming up.
You can't put Sin, Cincinnati, and Min, Minnesota next to each other on the schedule. I'm going to get confused. Anything you put in the teleprompter, Lucero will read. Anyway, it is a 3-game series in Cincinnati. The Royals can have a series win if they win tonight. Noah Cameron on the hill for Kansas City. Fellow Southpaw Andrew Abbott gets the ball for the Reds. Again, first pitch at 6:10, so we'll have pregame coverage at 5:30 right here on 580 Sports Talk. Shout out to Mark B in the live chat on YouTube for recognizing that was, in fact, a Major League reference.
Yeah.
That I made there. You've seen Major League?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Just checking. That's it. Totally forgivable you haven't made the time for a fish called Wanda. But, yeah, Major League, I would hope.
I also just know you love show/movie references. So
I do.
I always just let you
love them.
Get them out.
I do love them. I make them all the time.
Yes.
As I'm sure longtime listeners of the program are well aware. We don't have a ton of time left with you because we're off at 5:30. We've got 580 Sports Talk headlines, including a playoff roundup. We've got that to get into. Your text messages, 785-272-9429. That is 785-272-9429. That is the number. You can also interact with us in that live chat on YouTube. Been a lively chat today. We appreciate all of you checking us out, growing the 580 Sports Talk community. 580 Sports Talk is the name of the channel. So let's do our headlines, and let's begin with what happened in the Women's College World Series last night. Maybe some of you went to bed. You shouldn't have. I hope you didn't. I hope you stayed up like I did.
Me too.
To watch the Nigel Kennedy show.
So fun.
Last night. So it was semifinals yesterday. Tennessee, Texas, and Texas Tech, Alabama. And both Texas and Texas Tech, who played in the championship series last year, had to win twice because they had already had losses. Tennessee was undefeated and Alabama was undefeated. And they both did. Texas won 2 do-or-die games over Tennessee, and Texas Tech won a pair of do-or-die games over Alabama. So we will have a rematch. I believe that is the first in the history of the expanded Women's College World Series format to have a rematch in a best-of-3 championship series, as the Longhorns and the Red Raiders will meet up once again to decide the national championship. Texas Tech had a walk-off win over Alabama in the first game. Mia Williams, boy, that threw me for a loop when I found out she was White Chocolate's daughter.
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No, I didn't know that at like the start of the tournament. Like I was not as up. Like I was familiar vaguely with the Texas Tech roster. Like, you know, keep an eye on how Nigel Kennedy is doing because she's maybe the greatest female athlete in the history of Shawnee County and Topeka. And keep a track of her senior year. Would like to see her conclude one of the great college softball careers of all time with a national championship. So, yeah, I was vaguely aware of who Mia Williams was. I remember being a big deal when she transferred from Florida. No idea that was White Chocolate's daughter. Jason Williams, the former NBA point guard, his nickname was White Chocolate.
She went to Florida for a reason first.
Yes, continuing the family tradition. Though, don't think Jason Williams finished at Florida. I think he started there. I don't think he finished.
No.
I don't think he got a degree.
No. He went the other way. He started at Marshall.
Right.
And finished at Florida.
Yeah,
but didn't finish. He played a season and then got drafted 7th overall.
Yeah, because he grew up with Randy Moss.
Yeah, there's that
grew up
infamous 1999 Nike commercial with just the good old boys.
Yeah. The two of them from same part of West Virginia. There's a good 30 for 30 about it too.
Yep.
Anyway,
and West Virginia.
Anyway, so Mia Williams hit the walk-off homer in the opener. Tech won 5-4, and then after all the screwing around he did with his pitching rotation in the first handful of games of this tournament, Jerry Glasgow finally came to his senses in the finale last night and said, I'm going to let Nyjah cook. And Nyjah cooked.
Okay.
2-hit shutout to beat the Crimson Tide 2-0. You know when I knew the Tide were in trouble? So Kennedy had given up a big home run in the UCLA game.
Yeah.
Game-tying home run in the 7th inning. And gave it up on the changeup. And so the broadcast crew last night, Kevin Brown and Amanda Scarborough, who I think have done a really good job broadcasting the tournament, we're talking about Kennedy needing to find her changeup. Like, that's an important pitch for her. She's got to try and keep hitters off of it because, you don't keep a hitter off of a changeup. What it effectively becomes is a batting practice fastball. Like, you've got to really sell the changeup. And they were talking about the mechanics of it and how important that pitch is to Kennedy. She got a couple of early strikeouts on the changeup. And I'm watching that going, you are cooked, Alabama. You guys are done. You're not touching Nyjah tonight. And they barely did. They only had one hit with 2 outs in the 6th. They did have a double and then a deep fly out for the last out of the game. But Kennedy, who has pitched in more Women's College World Series games than any other pitcher in history.
She's also the first player to have multiple shutouts with multiple teams.
Yes. Wins in all 4 of her College World Series trips. And she will get one last crack at what has eluded her, the national championship. Texas and Texas Tech will play another best of 3. Texas won it in 3 games last year. Game 1 is Wednesday. I wasn't going to miss that game for anything.
Yeah, I don't want to be that guy, but like, what was he? I don't understand his, besides like making sure they got enough juice to go. Because softball pitching different than baseball pitching. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the motion that it doesn't tax.
Yeah, you can go all day, right?
Yes, but it just felt like the Texas Tech. Well, you can't see this if you're not watching on everything was going good, vibes great every single time Nyjah was starting a game, and then they try to give her some rest, pull her out. And then things would just hit the fan and she'd have to come back in.
Yeah, get her out of rhythm. And then you kill Kaylin Terry's confidence because Kaylin Terry's really good, too.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, it's just
like that was
if you look at the stats, it looks like she's bad.
Yeah. Like
in the World Series because she was, Nyjah would go, everything would be good. They pulled her out. Then Terry would have to come in midway and then Terry wouldn't get into a rhythm and then she'd give up some runs and then they'd have to get Nyjah back in.
So like the thought process is understandable from the perspective of they didn't win the national championship last year because Nyjah ran out of gas.
Yeah.
Like she was on fumes by game 3 of that championship series. So they had to get somebody else who could soak up some innings and not just, in the middle of the season. Like it's one thing to, soak up some innings when you're playing BYU in a 3-game series or whatever. But like you need somebody who can go and get people out in the College World Series. And so they went out and they got Kaylin Terry from the transfer portal. I forget where she transferred from, but she was a big deal arm. That was a big get from a very expensive transfer portal class. And she had a great year and just hasn't been great in the College World Series, unfortunately. And Kennedy, though, looked like that was her at her best. And we've seen her be really good on this stage for 4 years now.
Yeah.
But because it's a long season and because first at Stanford and last year at Tech, she's been it basically as far as pitching goes. I don't know that we've seen her at her absolute peak performance in a College World Series yet. Last night felt like that.
Yeah.
And if she can be that in the championship series, Texas is in trouble. And I know they're really good, and they've got an outstanding pitcher themselves, Tegan Cavan, I think is her name, or how you pronounce it. She's awesome. She threw a shutout against Tennessee to clinch their berth into the championship series. But that the version of Nigel Kennedy that was in the circle last night for Texas Tech will win Texas Tech the national championship. That was awesome to see, and a fitting championship level moment for one of the greatest college softball players of all time, Nigel Kennedy. Next headline, Spencer.
Yes, first headline for me, KU has released their non-conference men's basketball schedule. And we already knew a lot of what was going on, but now we know the dates. We don't know times or broadcast locations yet, folks. But they'll start the season Monday, November 2nd against Fordham. These are all hosting, obviously. They'll host Middle Tennessee State that Friday, November 6th. They're going to the Champions Classic in Chicago, November 10th. That's a Tuesday. They'll start the Players Era Tournament Tuesday, November 17th, and it'll run through the end of the week, where they'll play UNLV to start, Auburn and West Virginia second, and then either Florida, Notre Dame, Houston, or Rutgers on Thursday.
It's wild that they could play two Big 12 teams in that event.
And then they'll come back home for Thanksgiving week. They'll take on Denver Monday, November 23rd. Friday, they'll have their first of their home-and-home series with Villanova. That's Friday, November 27th. Tuesday, December 1st, Northern Iowa at home. Sunday, December 6th, that's the day of the game, Sunday, for the border showdown at the T-Mobile Center in KC-Mo against Missouri. They're at UConn Saturday, December 12th. And then a week later from that, Saturday, December 19th, they're at the CBS Sports Classic at Madison Square Garden, taking on Ohio State. And they wrap up non-con play at home Tuesday, December 22nd against Indiana State, and Tuesday, December 29th versus New Orleans.
So
the Big 12 schedule metrics will come out here in the next month or two, I believe.
Fun fact about that Denver matchup, November 23rd, DU head men's basketball coach Tim Bergstrasser coached in the state of Kansas 2 years ago when his Minnesota State Moorhead team lost the regional final to Washburn at Lee Arena.
There you go.
So he'll be in his second year at Denver. They were a 500 team in the Summit League last year. That is most definitely a bye game. The Pios are coming to get smashed, but they say at the University of Denver, they say, yeah, well, you don't want to see us in hockey.
Yeah.
And you don't want to see him in hockey. Another college basketball headline to bring you on our 580 Sports Talk headlines. Milan Momcilovic is going to Kentucky, and the offseason may have just been salvaged for Mark Pope in Lexington. Momcilovic, the standout at Iowa State last season, who led the country with a 48.7% three-point shooting percentage, which looks like a typo. But if you watched his games, like you watched enough of Iowa State, you don't remember him ever missing. So it almost seems like a typo in the other direction. Like, are you sure that's not like 20 points higher? Anyway, the 6'8" Momcilovic averaged 17 points a game, was fifth nationally in three-pointers made. Entered the transfer portal, declared for the draft just a couple of days ago, decided to remove his name from the NBA draft process, and he is heading to Kentucky. Reports and rumors and innuendo out there about a $6 million contract, if you will, agreement for Momcilovic to go to Kentucky, which, I mean, they got the money because ain't nobody else is taking it this offseason. Nobody else seemed to want to go to Kentucky, and that roster seemed awfully barren for Mark Pope. It was basically Zoom Diallo and a bunch of guys who aren't really at the Kentucky standard. But Momcilovic will be Mark Pope's star. And if you remember Mark Pope's team at BYU, or if you watched his teams at Kentucky, you know they like to spread the floor and they give their shooters license to fire. So Milan Momcilovic has the greenest light at Kentucky this coming season. Obviously a huge blow to Iowa State, although the way that they went about the transfer portal, where they made like 5 additions in 36 hours, I think made it pretty clear that they understood that Momcilovic wasn't coming back no matter what. And that if he was going to come back to school, Iowa State couldn't afford it. He was going to be too rich for Iowa State's blood. And that is kind of a fact of life there in Ames. So big loss for them, big loss for the Big 12, but a massive, massive addition for Kentucky to bring in Milan Momcilovic. Let's do a playoff roundup real quick before we wrap up our headlines, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it. I wasn't ready yet.
Sorry, that's my bad. I can fill space with this real quick. Steelers signed Nick Herbig to a $100 million extension over the next 4 years. He's their best pass rusher now. Herbig. He's better than TJ Watt these days.
Yeah.
So,
here we go.
All right, let's go.
It's time for the 580 Sports Talk Playoff Roundup.
The Stanley Cup Final begins tonight in Raleigh. The Carolina Hurricanes and Vegas Golden Knights each seeking the second Stanley Cup victories in their franchise's history in, I believe it's the third final for both teams, too. Carolina's been twice. I know that it lost to the Wings in 05, 06. It was sometime after the lockout. Or no, it was before the lockout.
Yeah.
And 02. And then they won it in 06. And now they're back in the final for the first time since then. Vegas, obviously 9 years of existence. This is their third final. They won it in 2023, beat the Panthers. They lost in 2019. Who'd they lose to, Spencer?
2018.
2018. Sorry. Who'd they lose to?
The Washington Capitals.
I thought
as Ovechkin finally got his cup.
I thought you would appreciate reliving that. Anyhow, the Hurricanes are the favorites, and understandably so. They are 12-1 in the Stanley Cup playoffs, but the Golden Knights, who would not have made the playoffs in the Eastern Conference, have gotten hot.
Yeah, the Capitals would have made the playoffs over them in that league.
Yeah, they didn't have enough points to make the playoffs out east, but in the Pacific Division, they were good enough to win the Pacific, but their team has caught fire. They made a late-season coaching change. John Tortorella has infused the team with a new attitude. Mitch Marner has played great hockey, some of the best playoff hockey of his outstanding career, and the Golden Knights have gotten great goaltending from Carter Hart. Please do not ask Carter Hart about anything in his past, and do not Google Hockey Canada sexual assault. Do not Google it. Do not ask him about it. Do not ask anybody with the Vegas Golden Knights about it, because they'll pull your media credential for doing it.
Yep.
So that's how scummy the Golden Knights are. Anyhow, they've got the hot goalie, which concerns me, but I feel like the Hurricanes are deeper. They're more well-rested, even though the Golden Knights also coming off of a sweep of the Avalanche in the Western Conference Final. I think Carolina wins it. I'll say they win it in 5.
I'm going Vegas in 6.
Boy, I hope not.
It's crazy. I think it's just this era of hockey and the fact that you have to do an expansion draft and everything. And they basically plucked the best players from, the best teams that their organization was already in like a good spot. They went to the Stanley Cup Finals in 2018. They're like first year of existence. And then they went back a couple
first
years.
Year.
Yeah. Like, I feel like it's unheard of the success that they've had in their not even 10 years of existence.
24 ESPN.com panelists, 12 picked the Golden Knights, 12 picked the Hurricanes. 28 panelists at The Athletic, 21 picked the Hurricanes. Only 7 picked the Golden Knights. Yeah, man, I just don't like anything about the Golden Knights vibe. Scummy organization, scummy coach. Like, John Tortorella is not a very likable character there behind the bench. No real fans, just no history. Just kind of tripped and fell into this in a way that no other expansion franchise, literally in sports history, has ever managed to do. They're 4 wins away from a second cup in 4 years. Carolina, again, looking for their first since 2006. Puck drops just after 7 o'clock tonight. It'll be on the ABC and ESPN family of networks throughout the Stanley Cup Final. We'll take one more timeout, come back, and put a wrap on today's show with the final word here on 580 Sports Talk. Time to wrap it up here on 580 Sports Talk with a final word for this Tuesday. Spencer Dupuis, what you got?
Final word for me. I don't know if it's too little too late or not, but the Royals really turned the page on the last couple of months. They went out yesterday and had a heck of a game. Lane Thomas started off with a grand slam in the first. I had my doubts looking at the score going, Royals up 4-0. It's the same old Royals. And then Luinder Avila, is he a starter? Like, he could slide in the rotation now if they like him to do that. I mean, he only gave up 1 run last night. Also, Cags with another homer, Massey with a homer, and Vinny had 2 or 3 hits, I think, last night. Good to see him, his average keep going up.
Yeah, talked about that at the very top of the show. Avila's got to throw more strikes, no question about that. But he is getting the chance to fail as a starting pitcher, and that is what I've asked the Royals to give him the chance to prove that he's not a starting pitcher. And he performed well, gave him 5 innings that they needed, and obviously the 9-run offensive outburst was nice to see. Final word for me, I cannot believe there's going to be a super regional in Lawrence, Kansas. This has already been a very unpredictable college baseball postseason. No team that made last year's College World Series is still in the field. 7 of the 16 national seeds have already been bounced, including number 1 and number 2. It has been already unpredictable. And could there be anything more unpredictable than Kansas going to the College World Series in Omaha? Who would have dreamed it at the start of this season? Who would have dreamed it 4 years ago when Dan Fitzgerald started as the head coach? It's long been just a pipe dream for Kansas baseball to be in this position. They are 2 wins away from Omaha, and if they get them, they'll have a chance to get them on their home diamond in front of their home fans. That's going to do it for 580 Sports Talk today. We got Royals baseball coming up right here at the bottom of the hour. We're back tomorrow from 3 until 5:30. For Spencer Dupuis, I'm Dan Lucero. This is 580 Sports Talk. Good night.